From the heart of South Asia to the crossroads of Central Asia, from the turbulent Middle East and North Africa to the power corridors of the West, where narratives collide, perspectives matter, and stories connect. This is Beyond Borders, and I am Omar Khalid Butt. Now, during the course of the show, we are going to bring you stories from across the world, in a world that we consider without boundaries or borders, and discuss issues that are extremely important in this changing world. We'll begin with the top stories of the day, all in our words, region lines. We start from Pakistan, where security forces have killed 38 terrorists belonging to the Indian proxy Fitna al-Khawarij, including ringleader Sajjad Abu Zar, in 4 intelligence-based operations in the northwestern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. A sanitization operation is underway to locate any other Indian-sponsored Khawarij in the area, as the counter-terrorism campaign under Azm-e-Istehkam continues to eliminate foreign-backed terrorists from Pakistan. Moving on to the West, where Brazil unveils the first draft of an agreement between nations at the UN climate talks at COP30 after negotiations on the sticking points. This draft reflects the stark division among the nearly 200 nations on fossil fuel transition, climate finance, and trade measures. Also, lawmakers in the US approve a bill to release government documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein, clearing the way for making the files public. The House of Representatives overwhelmingly approved this measure in a 427-1 vote. A senior White House official says President Donald Trump also plans to sign the bill. Meanwhile, Israeli strikes on a Palestinian refugee camp in the Lebanese city of Sidon kills at least 13 people, again breaching the agreed truce, as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expresses deep concern over increased attacks on UN peacekeepers in Lebanon. And lastly, gunmen attack a government girls' boarding school in Nigeria's Kebbi state, killing the vice principal and abducting 25 female students. The incident marks the latest mass kidnapping in the country's northwest. Our leading story concerns our own country, Pakistan, from South Asia. And of course, we are going to talk about Pakistan's war against terrorism. Nothing new there, but the fact remains that the Khawarij coming from the Afghan soil, backed by India, and that is why we call them Fitna al-Khawarij and Fitna al-Hindustan, continue to wreak havoc in different provinces of Pakistan. Now, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa has been the province affected in these recent attempts by these miscreants, by these terrorists, whether it be in Dera Ismail Khan district, whether it be in the Takhil North Waziristan district, or whether it be in other parts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. In the last few days, these terrorists have been trying to create havoc, but of course our armed forces have been valiant, have been extremely strong in their resolve to rid our land from all such terrorists, from all such fitna, and that is what they did. As a result, around 38 terrorists were sent to hell, and one terrorist, of course, killed himself while he was trying to create an atmosphere to, of course, enter into a terrorist attempt in Pakistan. Nevertheless, the fact remains that Pakistan's resolve remains ever strong in its fight against terrorism. To discuss that and more different aspects of Pakistan's war on terrorism, we've been joined by Dr. Marium Fatima. She's a security analyst. Marium, thank you very much to have joined us. Marium, how significant is this dismantling? 38 plus 1 terrorist, Indian-sponsored Khawarij in just a few days, in these last 2 to 3 days, to be very frank, as far as breaking the operational backbone of this proxy network is concerned.
Thank you for having me on the show and for giving me the opportunity to express my views. And I would like to begin with the very fundamental argument that Pakistan has been dealing, and our security forces and the intelligence agencies, they have been continuously dealing with the threat posed by TTP, whom we have started calling as Fitna al-Khawarij, and BLA for a long time. Since 2001, Pakistani security forces have been continuously trying to give a credible challenge to these proxy groups that are operating within the western borders of Pakistan. I would like to felicitate and extend my felicitations to the armed forces that they have been instrumental in trying to carry out intelligence-based operations to dismantle these groups. So the two recent examples which you have been referring to, the one that happened in Bannu, where the guy who was a suicide bomber, he was apprehended before he could go ahead with the planting of the IEDs and then blasting himself, and also in Datta Khel in the North Waziristan area. These are not just two examples of success. Our intelligence agencies are having successful operations on everyday basis. However, since we need to understand the scale of the threat that Pakistan is facing currently and the security agencies are facing currently. We need to understand that we have eastern on our eastern border India close to us, and India has shown a very strong paradigm shift from not having relations with the Taliban government since 1996, and then started establishing its relationship with the Taliban government after 2001. So now you see this is a strategic shift that India has shown. And why it has shown? Because India, in the democratic elected governments during the ISAF forces time, it had close relationships. The governments which are often emerging from Northern Alliance, they are often aligned with India. And India was investing heavily in Afghanistan. So with the emergence of the Taliban de facto government in Kabul, India was sort of disappointed because it didn't have relationships with Taliban's.
But now, Dr.
But I
Mariam, the
think
fact
that
remains that India has tried or has reignited the relationship with the Afghan Taliban, and we are seeing so many examples of it. We saw Amir Muttaqi, who was recently in New Delhi, and now the interim Afghan government's another minister is also in New Delhi as we speak. And of course, there is an attempt by both the sides to rekindle their ties. How uh, effective or ineffective are these ties going to be when it comes to also the proxy war that India is waging against Pakistan?
yes. So I was coming to that. Thank you for asking me this question. The thing is that it is not reigniting. India, for the very first time after 2021, developed its relationships with the Taliban government. So it was secret till now, and it was sort of now they are officiating it. They didn't expressly recognize the Taliban's, but the warmth and the relationship that we can see, it means that the India is not ready to give up on the investments that it made in Afghanistan prior to 2021. So India is now capitalizing on the Taliban government to use it as a proxy against Pakistan. And India is now in the process of re-establishing its consulates within Afghanistan, and Afghanistan, on the other hand, also established its consulate in India as well. So now, you see now there are two things that both of them are looking for from each other. The Taliban are looking for legitimacy and they want money for governance and establishing their capability to govern their country, and India, on the other hand, doesn't want to lose on its investments in Afghanistan. It wants to neutralize Chinese influence because China has been investing in Afghanistan as well. And thirdly, which is the most important thing and which has been clearly time and again often expressed by the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval Sahab, and he keeps saying that we are on an offensive defensive strategy against Pakistan. It is a strategic thought that they are putting into action against Pakistan, where they would keep trying to create new conflicts within the country. They can be sectarian conflicts, they can be political conflicts, or they can be ethnic conflicts, any sort of conflict. And also, they talk about guerrilla warfare. It is clearly mentioned in Ajit Doval's strategy and counter strategy against Pakistan that it would keep using the guerrilla warfare, which is the word that he uses for the proxy warfare, and then he talks about silent warfare as well. So silent warfare is
Dr.
about
Mariam,
the spread of
I'd
disinformation.
also
So I
like to
don't see
understand,
that
Dr. Mariam, I'd like to understand something. We saw a conflict between Pakistan and India in May this year. We saw Pakistan's strategic and tactical superiority over India, and the world also admitted it. A recent report that has been submitted to the US Congress also talks about Pakistan's superiority in this conflict with India. Do you feel the May conflict between Pakistan and India has reshaped the geostrategic dynamics in the region?
Okay, so there are two or three things that we need to keep in mind. Number one, Pakistan and India conflict has not.
All right, so we are in conversation with Dr. Marium Fatima, some kind of a security, not a security, but technical glitch, because of which we are unable to continue our conversation. But as soon as she comes back online, we'll continue our conversation. Pakistan's war against terrorism is something that we have been seeing in the last few decades. We've seen all the important operations that our armed forces also waged against all the terrorist elements inside of Pakistan. If we talk about the recent incidents between the 15th and the 16th of November this year, 15 Khawarij belonging to the Fitna al-Khawarij were killed in two separate engagements in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. In the general area, Kolachi, in Dera Ismail Khan, own troops effectively engaged the Khawarij location. Resultantly, 10 Khawarij, including Khawarij leader Alam Mehmood, was sent to hell. In another intelligence-based operation conducted in general area Datta Khair in North Waziristan district, own troops successfully neutralized 5 more Khawarij, whereas between the 16th and the 17th of November this year, 23 Khawarij belonging to Fitna al-Khawarij, which is of course an Indian proxy, were killed in two separate incidents in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. We are rejoined by Dr. Marium Fatima. Dr. Marium, we were discussing about the whole geostrategic change that has happened in the region because of Pakistan's win in this conflict over India in May. And of course, many reports have been given to different important organizations and by different organizations, the latest being that given to the US Congress that also highlights Pakistan's superiority and win in this conflict.
So basically, I would not just say that there was a geostrategic shift in the South Asian region. There was also a shift in the great power competition in the at the global level. So you're all well aware that the Chinese technology became as a formidable challenge to the Western technology, the defense export production that the Western countries were monopolizing and America was monopolizing for decades. So for the very first time, the entire paradigm shift changed in favor of China and the Chinese technology, because Pakistan successfully employed Chinese technology and also the technology developed by Pakistan itself in the aerial warfare against India, which proved out to be very successful. It was actually not just the technology, it was also the operational capability that our pilots had mastered over the last 6 years that they had been preparing for since 2019. As far as the geostrategic impacts are concerned, right after that incident, Taliban foreign minister visited India, number one. Number two, the BLA started giving allegiance and alliance to India. So now the thing is that Indian their national security advisor, their military high command from the tri-services and their political elites, they are not making a secret out of their intentions towards Pakistan. They're very clear in their intentions towards Pakistan. They're going to try to destabilize Pakistan in whatever way possible. And also you can see that India is cozying up to the Taliban government for the first time since 1996. And it is very evident that now they are openly threatening Pakistan. They're relying on their Taliban allies as proxies against.
All right. I understand the proxy war that India is waging, and there are so many proofs of that, from the Jafar Express incident to these days incidents as well. And the world has realized it, and that is why Pakistan is being hailed as an important power, as a strong geostrategic power in the region. General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab, defense analyst, joins us. Thank you, sir, to have joined us. So many things that have been happening. India continuing to wage its proxy war against Pakistan through the Afghan Taliban, the TTP continuing their nefarious designs, and of course our armed forces, as usual, as we have been seeing so many examples of in the past and continue to see. I have been thwarting all such enemy designs. When you look at the whole and process, that especially since May this year, do you feel there is a certain psychological defeat that the fitna have already undergone and continue to undergo, and that is why we see a kind of reduction as far as these attempts or these all of these terrorist incidents is concerned? Do you feel that the whole philosophy behind terrorism in Pakistan is slowly diminishing?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yes, it is diminishing, and it is mainly due to external as well as internal factors. Externally, I think though the dialogue between Pakistan and Afghanistan may not have succeeded as they should, but I think Pakistan's concerns have been very clearly communicated to them with proofs in the various sessions of our dialogue in Turkey and at the highest possible level uh, across to the right people who matter, in controlling the borders, and I'm talking now of their defense minister, also their interior ministry senior officials, and many others. And I think both Turkey as well as Qatar and others have played a vital role in doing that. That is one factor. The other factor is obviously uh, the communication of Pakistan's resolve at the highest possible level, both at the military as well as the political level, that the government of Afghanistan has to make a choice between its relationship with Pakistan and its people or the terrorists. And it is very clear that unless that choice is in Pakistan's favor, I think the people and the government of Afghanistan is going to suffer. It has been communicated to them that they need to break themselves the nexus of TTP, BLA, ISIS, KP, isolate them from each other, and then neutralize them themselves. If they will not do
Now,
it,
when you
then
talk
we
of
have.
neutralizing all such elements within Pakistani territory, we've seen in these recent 2 3 days two major ringleaders, Alam Mahsood, they're from DI Khan, and Sajjad alias Abuzar from Bajor, who have been killed, who have been apprehended by our armed forces. How far, in your point of view, has Pakistan progressed as far as its command and control structure and disruption of the command and control structure of the foreign-backed terrorism is concerned? Do you feel we have come a long way since the last few years? Do we continue with the same resolve as we have been following since the last decades?
Yes, I think it's very clear that the capacity of the armed forces of Pakistan to fight these terrorists has clearly been enhanced. Uh, they are now capable of taking out the terrorists on our soil as well as across during day and night in all weather conditions. And this has been demonstrated to the terrorists and to the interim Afghan governments a number of times that we have that capability, that capacity, and that will. And it is because of that that you see some decline, in terrorist activities, and the recent successes of the armed forces of Pakistan. I think against some hardcore terrorists speaks for itself about how well we are doing against the terrorists. At the same time, I think we need to continue our efforts to identify the nexus, among all these terrorists, particularly the one between the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan as well as the Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, because we have seen, that they are providing them, sustenance, even pay and allowances to them. The government is allowing them pay and allowances. The 12 or so other terrorists inside Afghanistan, as confirmed by the United Nations Security Council, are again there, and they are destabilizing not only the region but extra regional sort of areas like the EU, because ISIS-K is now recruiting terrorists from Central Asian republics, and they are being funded from a number of places, including India and others. So I think all this put together uh, points out the necessity of the interim Afghanistan government to control them. They should not name the TTP
This whole
as part.
controlling of the TTP or the fitna by the Afghan interim government has been is a formula that has been tried so many times by Pakistan through various forms and manifestation, but it has reaped no result whatsoever. And we have seen so many examples, the latest being the Istanbul talks that happened. What did it reap? Nothing. The Afghan interim government, the Afghan Taliban do not want to take any such measure to curtail the TTP or the Fitna or Kharij from propagating such terrorist activities in Pakistani territories. Dr. Mariam, given all the proofs that we have as far as Indian-sponsored proxies of all of these nefarious incidents is concerned, how important do you feel under these conditions is the regional and international cooperation and collaboration in order to expose and isolate the state-backed terrorism?
So, I think this is a very important thing that you have mentioned. We need to understand that the international community is aware, fully aware, that India has been perpetrating terrorism through TTP in Pakistan. There have been reports by CIA, there have been reports at the EU level, and also their envoys and all the think tanks in EU. They are fully aware, and it is in the a part of their published researches where they understand that in raw is behind in providing support, training, abetment of these terrorist incidents within Pakistan. Now, what is there for the international community to do to understand that how Pakistan is concerned by it? So far, till May 2025, I need you to understand that India had developed this facade of being the net security provider in this region because it considered that it actually had sold itself to the Americans as an important Indo-Pacific partner for US to counter the Chinese influence in this region. And because of that, US had given a lot many concessions to Indian government for allowing perpetration of terrorism in Pakistan. It had allowed India to keep buying oil from Russia, and also it had given it a lot of concession on the human rights violations that were carrying and taking place within India, and many other things that India was very low on its responsibility as a state. And also, if you see that there have been continuous uranium threats within India. So, if you look at India's track record recently, it has really been that of an irresponsible state, a state which was backing terrorism, and it was also on through the verified through the reports of CIA and EU envoys and also MI6 reports. However, India was given a clean sheet or a concession because how it was projecting itself as a counter influence to the Chinese presence in this region. But that
That is
facade
true.
has gone down after May 2025. It is broken, and India's credibility has been challenged. And that is why we see that there has been shift in the international community towards Indian narrativization on terrorism. Also, you
All
are
right.
aware that the Indian death jobs carried out by RAW against the Sikh leaders within Canada and America. It's a testament to the fact that India was flexing its muscles in the West as well. So I think that the Western nations and India, they are sort of in a love and hate relationship on the Russia-Ukraine issue as well. And also they have understood that how India is backing the terrorist groups within this region. So basically, India has given a setback to its own narrative of trying to control terrorism or trying to stigmatize Pakistan for allegedly perpetrating terrorism. So India has basically exposed itself before the world that its narrative on terrorism was not credible. Its own track record as an irresponsible state is there, and it has not voted against Russia when Russia invaded Ukraine. It abstained, and that is why you see that the European Union and many states which are not a part of the European Union but they're in Europe, they have not condemned Pakistan during the 4 days conflict that Pakistan had with India, and also they were aware
They
that
have
the
not
Indian
condemned because, Dr. Mariam, to be very frank, everybody knows who is on the right side of history and who is on the wrong side of history, who started it all, who wants
what
to
condemn.
destabilize the other country. And the facts are becoming clearer and clearer with every passing day. And this is what India is facing. India is facing a humiliating defeat on so many different fronts because its nefarious designs are slowly and steadily getting exposed. So now it is relying on the Afghan Taliban and their collaboration in order to continue to disrupt and dismantle or try to disrupt Pakistan through one means or another. But of course, as we have seen, our armed forces are valiant enough to thwart all such designs with equal strength. Thank you very much, Dr. Mariam, to have joined us. It was a pleasure talking to you for the first time. I hope this will be the first of many such interactions. Let's move now to General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab. Azme Istehkam, sir. How important is this resolve to strengthen Pakistan's counter-terrorism architecture under the National Action Plan?
Uh, I think very recently, what has happened, the changes in the Higher Defense Organization of Pakistan are, I think, very positive, and we will now be able to beat these terrorists with the joint efforts of the three armed forces, with the Chief of Army Staff being also appointed as the Chief of Defense Forces. You know, we have threats from the sea in the coastal areas. The Air Force is one of the leading force to go after these terrorists. Now, with this change, I think there will be better coordination amongst the three services, amongst the various intelligence setups of the country, and these efforts, all our efforts of counter-terrorism, will be more cost effective as well. So that's a positive sort of a development, and that is going to make a real change. In addition to that, I think we have seen it now that while, as I said, the talks may not have succeeded as they should, but some of the indications that are now coming out of Afghanistan itself, that they are the uneasiness of the people of Pakistan, particularly the large minorities there, against the present under 40% sort of Afghan non-represented Afghan regime, who are now putting their own economy at stake because the borders are closed, and they are suffering. They are suffering a lot. Their people, their traders are talking to open up the borders. but their leaders are not concerned. And some of the big minorities there, like the Uzbeks and the Tajiks, they are openly talking now, and some of them are even talking of a change of regime within Afghanistan by their own people, to make sure that Afghanistan does not remain isolated as it is from the rest of the world, and as it is suffering economically, politically, diplomatically, for the last 3 or 4 years. So I think this is what the people of Afghanistan needs to realize. And of course, if that happens, it will also affect, Pakistan the most, because if you recall, in the case of the TTP one, when there was infighting inside Afghanistan, then I think they were then uh, drifting into Pakistan and into Iran and other places, but more so inside Pakistan. So they need to realize that the people of Afghanistan are not happy, and they
A
may
lot
take
of
steps
realization needs to
which
happen.
might
General
bring
Raza
up.
Mohammad Khan Sahab, a lot of realization needs to happen by the Afghan Taliban, by the Afghan interim government. Unfortunately, the realization hasn't come off yet. I hope it comes sooner than later, because this is at the detriment of not only their own country, but of course the entire region as well. And Pakistan knows how to defend itself. It has defended itself in the past as well, and it will continue to defend itself with all its might to thwart all such elements from further dismantling or harboring such designs towards Pakistan, whether it be India, whether it be the TTP, whether it be any other fitna or any other terrorist organization. The message is loud and clear from the Pakistani forces' side. Now, let's take you now to the West. Thank you very much, sir, to have joined us for this very important segment. Now, time to go to the West. We all know that COP30 is happening in Belém in Brazil, and we also know that there's a lot of disagreements between the almost 200 countries that are present at the COP30 as far as how to move forward when it comes to a climate pact. We know climate justice is something that Pakistan has been pushing for in the last COPs as well. And climate action is also something that Pakistan and other countries have been pushing for. But the fact is that there are always certain elements within the 200 or 200 plus countries that do not see eye to eye when it comes to the action or the statements that come up. Same is the case with the first draft of the climate pact that has now landed at COP30. It is an important pact. But again, it should not just relegate itself to a mere statement and should transform itself into implementable action as well. It has taken a long time because of the different disagreements of the countries that are now participating in COP. To discuss that, more climate action, climate justice, the importance of COP and more, we've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios, we've been joined by Marium Kaiwan, who is a climate justice analyst. Marium, thank you very much to have joined us. And online, we've been joined by Asad Mehmood. He's a climate change expert. Asad, thank you also to have joined us. We'll begin with you, Marium. How significant is this early release by Brazil of this global Mutirao draft, and does it indicate, in your point of view, a growing momentum towards some kind of a meaningful COP30 agreement, despite the divisions that we are seeing in the countries that are present there?
Of course. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I think this draft that was proposed yesterday, it is a masterstroke, I would say, in diplomatic momentum. I think the countries were forced to come up with something. In the past, what we've seen is a lot of countries used to hide away. They thought not having an opinion or being absent from such events or not being a part of consensus or drafts or resolution was okay. But now the whole fact, as they've named, is Mutirao. The word itself, it talks about collectivism. and the whole fact that the Global South, Brazil, is hosting that summit, that gets to show that now we are not waiting for a top-to-bottom approach where somebody would take certain decisions and the entire world would have to follow. Now, the vulnerable countries, the third world countries, the developing countries, exactly, Pakistan. Pakistan, I think, should be on the forefront right now, and we should also act as a liaison, as a bridge block between the developed and the non-developing, underdeveloping countries as well. And I think the fact that the role that Pakistan has already played in other security-related issues this year is an evidence enough for the countries to take Pakistan seriously, and even on this issue as well. Because even in September, when Pakistan talked about the stance, we were very clear that our contribution to global emissions is less than 1%. But the consequences that we get to face, they are disastrous. So obviously staying silent or not having an opinion, it is not a solution.
That is
but
true.
I think all the countries, they were forced to come up and play their cards early, display them on the table. So I think this is
because there's a lot at stake, Mariam.
Yes.
There's a lot at stake due to fossil fuel emission, due to the increase in temperatures that is slowly exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Yes.
And the effects are going to be disastrous if the necessary action is not taken. Action is the keyword, Mariam. Here, action is the keyword. Asad, coming to you, nearly 200 countries are split over this fossil fuel phase out versus continued dependence on fossil fuel energy. How likely, in your point of view, is COP30 going to deliver some kind of a unified roadmap as far as the global energy transition is concerned? Will they all agree on it?
A short answer is no, but what we can say is like a perfectly unified roadmap is unlikely, but a carefully ambiguous roadmap is much more realistic. So extract the language around transition away from fossil fuels with timelines, like some sectoral signals and references to equity and other national circumstances. But it's like not a COP mandated shut-off date for coal, oil, or and gas. So I can in easy way, I can say that think of it as a group of 200 people trying to agree on a diet plan, and half of them on bakeries. So the best outcome is a framework that clearly bends investment, finance, technology towards you can say renewables and efficiency, even if the phase out language remains diplomatically fuzzy. So this is how the COPs work out.
All right. I mean, a lot of uncertainty, but at the early presentation of this draft might lead to some kind of a tangible result. But again, the key word is action here. Mariam, what challenges do developing nations, including Pakistan, including so many others that are impacted by climate change, face as far as negotiations over climate finance is concerned, and trade measures that need to be taken under the ambit of the COP? Because now that this draft has been put forward, how, in your point of view, is this draft going to reshape expectations for climate justice, even for countries like Pakistan that has been advocating for climate justice for so long?
For so long, not just for our own selves, but also for other parts of the world who are suffering like us. I think the draft, it is open. There's a lot of confusion even right now in the draft. So I would take that as a positive sign, because I'd like to believe in the positives at the moment. I think they're more open towards inclusion. They're open, so that means they're open to more suggestions. But at the same time, some people are taking that as a weakness as well, that certain things should be decided by now. By now, you cannot hide them under the mat. So certain decisions, even if by now there's uncertainty in that regard, then that's sort of weird. You've pinpointed the answer yourself. You used the word actionable. So if it's not actionable, things are not going to work. Now for us, advocating for this is extremely important. Asking for financing is extremely important. Why? I think it should not seem like asking for charity. if you are getting loans, if you are getting grants, if you are getting funds for making a more climate resilient, more actionable, more working towards a solution-based approach for countering climate change, it should not feel like charity, because we are basically taking care of the world as well. How?
And we are not the ones who are emitting, you know.
Exactly.
We are bearing the brunt of other nations that are emitters.
Yes, we are facing the consequences, and those are disastrous. And then again, we are also dumping the garbage for the developed countries. So it's us who are doing the work for you, but when it comes to giving funds for the solutions, it feels like charity. So I think the very first approach that has to be clear, these grants should not be loans. This is exactly what they need to ask for right now, and even the draft that was proposed in September, this is exactly what they asked for, finances to do this. Because for an underdeveloped country, for a developing country like Pakistan, I always say the issue is not just climate. So this is not just the climate crisis. There are a lot of other issues. Security issues are attached with this.
Exactly.
So when there are floods, it is sort of creating a fertile ground for bigger issues like extremism that we are trying to counter. Because when people are losing their homes, when people are losing, I always say when people are losing their source of livelihood, when people are losing their families, what are they going to do? They are going to resort to the wrong path, which is actually giving them some money and maybe a sense of purpose.
So many things are intertangled, interrelated, that you need to tackle one thing so that the others
follow
do not follow suit, and you know, we don't get a society that becomes disentangled in so many different affairs.
But I think hypocrisy is the problem. So the developed countries, they've reached a certain point. Now, once they've reached there, using fossil fuel as a way, by producing oil, by relying on oil, fossil burning of coal, gas, emitting lots of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. And now we say that we cannot afford more emissions into the atmosphere. They're fine. They're saying, fine, okay, now look for other alternatives. That is what is being told to the developing countries, without having any, without giving them any assistance in how to go about that.
Again, the keyword becomes action. Mariam, again,
yes.
the keyword is action. Asad, coming to you. Does the proposal to shift from a 5-year to annual assessment of national climate pledges, does all of this signal, in your point of view, a more urgent, accountability-driven global climate regime, or is it more of the same that we've been seeing the last few years?
Yeah, just continuing upon like what you previously discussed is like global south is basically being forced to sprint while also tying their shoelaces together. So this is what is basically happening. So and coupling this with this question is like yes, we are moving from 5-year to like annual review is that is need of the hour. But it is just like switching from a sort of from semester.
Or it'll be a bit glitching, in fact, as far as technical issues are concerned, but we'll shift very quickly to Mariam. Mariam, the resistance, you were talking about the oil-producing countries and the resistance that they are saying, and they are saying one thing, but they are not translating that into the necessary action so that the world can be a safer place for our future generations and even the current generations as far as fossil fuel emissions or other such strategies are concerned. This resistance from the oil-producing states, what diplomatic strategies, in your point of view, are now needed, whether it be at Bellum or post-Bellum, to bridge the divide and secure a credible final agreement by the end of the week, so that by the end of COP30, at least something tangible comes. But unfortunately, whenever some COP happens, something tangible comes, but it's never translated into action.
It's never translated into action, and that is exactly what the law says. So even right now, there are two blocks, and there are two extreme blocks. So one block is asking about cutting down on fossil fuel completely. No more emissions. We do not need to emit more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. They are talking about moving towards more renewable energy resources like thermal, hydro, wind power, instead of burning coal, of course. And on the other hand, oil-producing countries, for instance, Saudi Arabia, Russia, and even the emerging economies, I would say, some parts of Africa and India, they are not denying climate change. They are not resisting from adopting that policy. All that they're wanting is a middle ground. So on one side, one part of the world that is asking for an extreme incremental, a radical shift from here to here. These already, the economies who have built already on the basis of oil and burning fossil fuel, they are asking for a more gradual and incremental. Now the only actionable thing could be if there's a bridge between the two. Don't go towards extremes. Look for a common ground. These countries, they are coming up with this policy of abated fossil fuel. So that means they are saying, do not ask us to cut down on fossil fuel completely. Instead, we will adopt strategies where we can control them. We would not let them go into the air. So there is this policy of carbon capture and storage technology. They are saying that let us work on these grounds so that at least it's a gradual. And I think the differentiation of timelines is also what matters. So for some countries, maybe you need to give them a leverage that they can completely cut that down by 2040 or maybe by 2030. But for some countries, you need to give them more time so that they have an alternative.
Let's see if that happens by the end of the week. Let's see if some tangible resolution is put and signed by all the parties concerned. That's the last question to you. We're a bit short of time. Latest global carbon budget warns about the carbon allowance for staying under 1.5 degrees Celsius, and that we don't see happening in the coming days or even in the coming months. Do you feel that all of this, the increase in temperature, the fossil fuel emissions, and all that we are seeing across the world, and some kind of disarray amongst the countries at COP30, is it rendering the Paris Agreement's flagship goal obsolete?
We can say, like, diplomatically, like the COP30 can't simply declare 1.5 degrees centigrade obsolete without detonating like the trust, especially in the most vulnerable countries. So instead, the focus shifts to minimize overshoot, peak emissions immediately, and making every tenth of a degree count. So it's like missing your ideal exam score. You don't throw away the paper, you fight for every remaining mark. So put that in context.
All right. Thank you so very much, Asad Mehmood, to have joined us, and thank you very much, Mariam Kaiwan, to have joined us. I hope this will be the first of many such interactions that we'll have on climate change, because it's something that is extremely important for the world to take action on. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Stay with us for 5 more minutes till I end the show. Very, very quickly, another story that comes from the West is on the US Senate that has approved the measure to release the Epstein files. A months-long saga. Our lawyers in the lawmakers rather in the US House of Representatives as well as in the Senate, with only one no vote, have approved a bill to compel the Trump Justice Department to release a trove of files from investigations into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who died in jail in 2019. Now this bill has moved to the Senate, has been approved, and now all we are looking forward is whether Donald Trump is going to sign it and it will become law, and what will be revealed as far as all of these files are concerned. Next, let's take you to the Middle East and North Africa. Israel has killed 13 more Palestinians in Lebanon. End of 2024 was when a truce was signed, a ceasefire was signed between both the sides. But just like in Gaza, Israel continues to flout that ceasefire, and we have seen these 13 Palestinians who've been killed in the Ain al-Hilwa Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon, and several others have been wounded, and this has been confirmed by Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health. And this strike hit a car outside a mosque in the camp near Sidon. Israel is claiming it targeted Hamas members allegedly operating in a training camp inside the camp. Hamas is strongly denying all of this. Now, we all know Israel's strategy. We all know how it has used its strategy or misused its strategy in Gaza and also misused it in Lebanon as well. Finally, let's take you to Nigeria, where gunmen abducted 25 female students in Nigeria, and security forces there have intensified the search for these schoolgirls abducted from a boarding school in the northwestern state of Kebbi. The attackers stormed the government girls' comprehensive secondary school in Maga at dawn, killing the vice principal, taking the girls after a shootout with police. 2 students managed to escape, according to their parents. The attack has revived painful memories of the 2014 Chibok school kidnapping, where more than 300 girls were taken by Boko Haram. So let's hope that these 25 girls who've been abducted are going to be returned safely because of the interventions of the security forces in Nigeria. We wish them a safe recovery, as we wish all such incidents to end on a positive note, whether they be in Pakistan, across the world, or in Nigeria as well. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's Beyond Borders. It's been an interesting journey today as well, but we'll continue to bring you stories that are extremely important, pertinent, updated, so that you can formulate an opinion of your own as well. And it is due to this collective opinion of all of our viewers that we'll be able to formulate a new strategy on how to build a new world, a world that is free from the effects of climate change and violence. Allah Hafiz.